I just turned this on over on Facebook, just waiting for it to stream. And guess we're going to start letting some people in the group. All right. It looks like we're starting to go live.
There we
Oh, we
are.
got
Hello,
Sarah.
hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Monday. I can't always like, what day is it when we do these? It's always Monday. And I'm always like, what day is it when we go live? But yeah, happy Monday. Hope you guys are having a great day. It is a beautiful Monday here in Cincinnati. That's where I'm located. So let me know where you're tuning in from. Over on Zoom, let us know. Over on Facebook, let us know. If I see you over on Facebook, I will give you a thumbs up and wave. And I'm actually going to put a link in here so you can join over here on Zoom as well. This is a time for you to get your questions answered by one of the top experts in the creative financing space. Mark has done millions of dollars worth of deals, millions. He's got 30 years of experience, and he has the knowledge that I've never heard. And it's like, you're confusing me, Mark. I gotta learn this. So let me understand it. So I dig in with them, and you guys need to dig in with them as well. And this is your opportunity to figure out how you can make $1 million off of real estate. I like to
There's
become a
Mary. I just
millionaire
want to
off of
say
real
hi to
estate.
Mary Lou. See Mary Lou over on Facebook? So
Mary
she's in my
Lou,
program, and she actually, what, 2 months ago, Mary? She quit her 9 to 5 job and she's done real estate full time. She's in
let's
Hawaii.
go.
She's doing really well.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Love
Yep.
it. That's what we love to hear. Welcome in. Welcome in. I'm going to put over here. Also, I haven't seen any. We have people over here on Zoom and they haven't told us where they're tuning in from. I don't know if they're robots or what. I don't know. So here, let's throw this over here at Facebook. Everyone, here we go. Feel free to join in, guys, right now. Bam. All right, Mark, how are you? Everything good with you?
Doing well. Excited. Yeah, the weather's starting to actually get beautiful here. The humidity is coming down a little bit. We got another few weeks and I get to finally open my windows. It's been a while since I've opened my windows and enjoy the fresh air. So we have to, this is the time of year we have to really run our AC. And I was just telling you before I got on, because we have mold in Florida, so we have to make sure that our AC is always cranking so we don't run into that issue. And I was sleeping
Yep.
3:30 in the morning. My alarm, I hear this alarm going off. I'm like, what in the world is that? And sure enough, the water was starting to leak over, and the AC condenser was backing up. And so the water detector alarm went off, and that was a lovely thing. Thank God it was beautiful out and it was like 3:30 in the morning. So I just turned it off and dealt with it in the morning, but it was no big deal. So we got quite a few people over on Facebook. Facebook, if you, Matt just put the link in here. So if you want to jump over here on Zoom and bring your questions, that'd be great. So thank you guys so much. All right, Matt, how you doing? And I'm excited. We're going to actually hang out this late week. Going to hang out and have a couple
Yeah,
drinks,
real estate
and
conference we're going to, and it's going to be a
yeah,
good time.
should be fun.
Yeah.
And then from there, I'll be in Ohio. Then from there, I'll be heading out to Lake Tahoe. So I'm looking forward to Lake
Lake
Tahoe.
Tahoe. There you go. There you go. Are you flying from Cincinnati to Lake Tahoe?
Yes. Yep.
That'd be fun. Be fun. Nice. It'll be a good time. So how can you tell me what allows you to be able to do that? I mean, you're still fully involved in real estate, right? So you're doing the deals almost every day. You're looking at deals, you're getting things going. How are you doing that and then traveling like you are?
Uh, Put together, I have two amazing VAs, virtual assistants out of the Philippines that are just awesome. One works from 9 until 6, Monday through Friday, and then the other one works from Sunday through Thursday, and he starts at 11 Eastern Standard until midnight. Mainly because reason why he starts on Sundays because the seller financing group where most of you guys are come from is we get bombarded with a lot of spam and scam stuff coming out of like Nigeria and the South Africa type of thing. it's different time zone over there, so we get bombarded. So we have to be in there. We're moving between 200 to 400 scam posts all the time. And you actually just picked up on one we just before we got on here. You're like, oh, that one with the picture of the girl, that's a scam post. So, we're always constantly trying to keep the group at a high quality level. And I know people are doing deals in there. So they do, I would say they do about almost 80% of my real estate work for me. I have all systems set up, great CRM. They all know what to do. I built it out where they know their tasks and their duties, and I set it up where they work closest to the money. So you want to give them their to-do list, a task list, and they know what to do every day. And whenever something comes in, like for example, let's say we need to do a contract. Instead of working on a social media post, they know how to stop that and jump over and start working on the contract. So they kind of know in how we built the systems out. And yeah, and then all I need is my computer and my phone and just to be able to set up calls and do work. I was just sitting here today, I was doing some video recordings and popped up on my calendar and I had a seller literally book a call at the last second. It went right through the system. They were in the system and doing chatting back and forth. And I had the AI bot set up and the bot automatically scheduled a call and I jumped on the phone with the seller. So it was just like, and it pops up on my calendar 10 minutes before every call so I can kind of see what's going on, no matter what, if it's a seller, buyer, if it's one of my members in my program that scheduled a call, if it's one of my capital partners, whatever it is, I just keep a really good system and organize so I can constantly keep going. So I'm excited. And then I really technically don't start my day until 11:30 every day, Eastern Standard, because in the morning when I get up, I'm working on myself. I work on my mind, I work on my physical body, and go to the gym, cycle, but my team starts working and doing stuff. So I'm constantly communicating and working off my cell phone. And, what I started noticing, I don't know if you notice this, but for a couple of days there, my neck was sore. I'm like, what's going on in my neck? Why is it so sore? I had to lay down and use a ball. Well, what's happening is I'm always constantly looking at my cell phone, working
Yep.
off my cell phone.
I get that all the time. It's always a problem. Yeah, I understand. And that's awesome that you're able to do that because you're able to just manage I mean, how many you have, two VAs?
I do. Yep. Christian and Ron, they're great. I've had VAs for years and years, but these two are phenomenal. Christian does an amazing job with the social media stuff and helping out with our CRM, constantly building our CRM to keep adding more and more, features to it. We use Go High Level. And, and people in my program, if they're in the program, they get the CRM as well at a really nowhere near the price and just helping them out so they can make sure that they're getting good prices. So I'm excited. Let's bring some questions. Who's got questions?
Yes, guys, this is the time for you to ask your questions, whether you're over on Facebook, drop it in the chat. If you're over on Facebook, feel free to join us on Zoom. I dropped the link in the comments. If you're over here on Zoom, go ahead and raise your hand, unmute yourself. This is the time for you to get your creative financing questions answered. Does anybody have any questions to start us off? If not, I have a whole list of them. So
All
don't
right,
there's
go ahead.
no, and
Start your
let
questions.
me throw this out there as well. There is not a stupid question out there. We all start somewhere. We all start as beginners. We all have to start somewhere in life. And when it comes to educating ourselves, we do not look down on anybody when it comes to questions. So do not be scared. If you don't even know what creative financing is, ask us. That's okay. We can answer that for you. So that's I've noticed that people are scared sometimes to ask questions. So
Yeah, I
all right.
noticed sometimes that, yeah, I noticed sometimes they all sitting there waiting and then all of a sudden everybody will start asking questions at once. So that's
Yep.
kind of,
Yep. Is there a valid reason why homeowners would refuse to do seller financing if they own it?
possibly if they need to sell their capital. That's a great question. If they need to sell their capital and they need all that capital like to put down on their next home, because they don't want a high interest rate. We've seen that a little bit in the past, like 12 months to 2 years, because the interest rates jumped up, and they don't want to have that higher interest rate because they may have a I've seen where they have a current mortgage like 3.5%, 4%, and the payments are lower. So they want all their cash to move to the other property. That's one of the reasons why I seen sellers. That's probably the number one main reason why they need that capital to put down on another property. In the past, and it's starting to come around where I used to refinance. We used to refinance the current property at a, the interest rates are lower. I'll take over the payments, and then they could take that cash and go and put that down on another property. I've done hundreds of like that. However, in I would say the last 12 months to 24 months, that seems to be one of the biggest issues. But if they can't sell their home, um, and that's where the follow up comes along. If they can't sell their home, typically they're going to keep trying to sell their home. And you want to keep constantly following up because 70% of my deals come from no, I want to sell it traditionally. I'm trying to do this, and they can't, and then they have to move, and they'll end up carrying two different payments. So that's where a lot of times they tend to come around. That's a great question, but that's typically what I see. It goes back to building a rapport with the seller, getting to know the seller, and every week I say this is like when you guys are doing a seller financing, a creative seller financing deal with the seller, it's all about relationship. I can't tell you. Think of it this way. This is the easiest way of doing it. Think of it the first time that you went on that date with your significant other, the first time. So treat it like that. 80% of it is getting to know each other. You're getting to know them and they're getting to know you. And the reason why they're going to do business on this type of strategy is because they like you. Yes, it might be a solution, but they might be getting hit with several other investors kind of pitching them the same thing. But because you built a rapport, you built a relationship, you got to know them really well, they're going to end up doing it because of you. So that's really the bottom line. What it really comes down to is understanding the seller. And Mary, that's how Mary got many of her deals. And she's phenomenal at building Mary Lou, by the way, she's phenomenal at building a rapport with the sellers and just working everything out. And she's gotten she's got a couple creative deals because of that. Now she's actually moving on to doing senior living facilities now and kind of taking that path and doing some creative stuff over there. But that's how she started out, and so she's doing extremely well. So,
All right. And hey, this is actually not about wholesaling. So when it comes to wholesaling, we do cover wholesaling from time to time, but this isn't about wholesaling. This is about creative finance where you can actually build wealth instead of creating a job for yourself.
so this is about learning seller financing strategies. Let me give you a quick example. So wholesaling, because you can make so much more money buying properties through a creative seller financing strategy instead of wholesaling. Yes, there's people that come into the group, they're wholesaling these properties out, and then yes, I'm buying some. But let me kind of give you an example. So one of my members in my program, she had a deal. It was a subject to deal, and she was going to wholesale it because it needed roughly about $37,000 worth of work, and she didn't have the money because she was doing a fix and flip. Okay. But instead of doing wholesale, instead of like, I'm like, okay, what's your assignment fee? I'm like, all right, I'm gonna ask for $15,000. I'm like, okay, when it's all said and done, negotiate, what do you think you're realistically gonna make? She goes, I don't know, maybe $8 to $10,000. Okay. So we went through that deal, we did a deal analysis, and we do this in all of our deals. She was making $171,000 over 5 years instead of only making $8 to $10,000 on a wholesale. And she made $15,000 on the front end because she went through the process and understood it and learning it. So what we did is we sold it as a handyman special. We told it as a handyman, we said, okay, typically we have to fix this property up. If we fix the property up, we're going to want $60,000 to $70,000 down. But if you're handy and you want to fix this property up and yourself, instead I'll take $15,000 down, and then you can take that additional capital and fix the property up. So she got $15,000 on the front end. She cash flowed $775 a month, so she got passive income. And then she on the back end, it was close to like another 90 something $1,000, maybe even more than I don't remember. But when you ran the numbers, the cash flow over 5 years and upfront money that she's making, and then in the back end, because typically we sell it for about 10 to 12% over the as is value. So that's how you end up doing it. So she was making $171,000 in that deal. And she could technically also, once she understands that, she could sell that note off into the secondary market and sell that and generate cash. So this is a lot more advanced than just wholesaling. You can make a lot more money and you build generation wealth, and it's all about passive income. The key to it is you want to learn, and we'll post a clip in here afterwards where I locked up a deal for $100 and I ended up making $50,300 on a creative seller financing. That was a lease option. We call that a sandwich lease option. What I did is I went under contract with a seller that allowed me to lease. We call it a lease option, rent to own, that allows me to sublet it and put my tenant buyer in there. I cash flowed and I made money on the front end, and I got in very little. I got in for $100, and then I negotiated saying, okay, I only want to put 2 months down because I'm going to take care of the maintenance and repairs, but I'm passing it on to my tenant buyer. And here's $100 to lock it up. And when I take possession of the property, I'll give you the remaining 2,300. Went out, got my end buyer. Found my end buyer put a little bit more than $11,300 down. Took that capital, gave the seller the 2,300. I made that capital up front on the front end on that. So that's how. And then I'm cash flowing a little bit more than $300 a month. So we got a lot of questions here. So let's dive
Yes.
into some more questions.
Awesome. So awesome. All right. So is PropStream a good place to find leads? If not, where is a good place to find leads?
PropStream is good. I like PropStream. I used it for years. But what I did is I actually changed it over to Deal Machine now. Deal Machine is the same exact thing as PropStream pretty much, but you get unlimited skip tracing. And they also look up LLCs, and they also have AI built into it. So they're kind of pulling the same data. The same data is about the same, but it works really, really well. Matt, I think just put a link in there. There you
Yep.
go.
Put a
And
link
if you
in,
do
and
it,
this is what. Yep,
go ahead.
this is what the screen looks like when you go to it.
And you get some bonuses too if you do if you go ahead and, but it is a great source. I use it for everything. I use it to pull leads. Like I call them tired landlords. Tired landlords are great. They've owned the property for like 15 years plus, and they're just tired and they like that passive income, and they don't want to get hit with the capital gains, and they're used to it. And what they'll do is they'll pass the torch on to the next person because they were in that same position. I don't like people that have owned a property for 5 years or less because there's no meat left on that bone. But tired landlords are awesome. I also use Deal Machine to look up what's on the property, any type of mortgage, interest rates, payments when I'm analyzing and underwriting my deals. So PropStream is good, but I recommend trying this other source, Deal Machine. I felt Deal Machine's better because it skip traces, and also it will skip trace the LLCs where PropStream doesn't do that. PropStream you can skip trace, but they charge you for every skip trace where Deal Machine is actually included. So, all right. Uh, Next question.
All right. Next question. Can we have a property in disposition phase? What is the fastest way to get a tenant buyer? Should we have a pre-existing waiting list?
What are they meaning? A buyer list? Is that
Yeah,
what
I
she's
guess
saying?
basically, yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I like I have some loan officers that refer some of their clients that couldn't qualify for a loan, but they have a good down payment and they have good income. That's a great place to find a tenant buyer. Also, Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, apartments.com. That's kind of I do. But just make sure you screen. I always screen my people. Um, I also send them through a loan officer because I want to make sure at the end of the term that they're going to be able to qualify as long as they follow what the loan officer is telling them to do. Usually it's they have some credit challenges or they might be self-employed, either or, and they have to show some type of income and then maybe have to do something with the bank statements, or the credit needs to kind of get worked on. And usually it takes about 18 to 30 months for people to kind of get the credit in line. But there's so many different ways of kind of getting the credit thing all squared away. But tenant buyers are pretty easy. Also, put some bandit signs in front of the house and in the neighborhood, rent to own type of thing. And when you talk to people, I always use the terminology rent to own instead of lease option because a lot of times that confuses people. I had a seller years ago that was, I said, hey, would you be, when we started talking about lease options, and she's like, ah, no, no, no. And then she goes later on in the conversation, I would be open to a rent to own. Well, it's the same thing, but she didn't understand the terminology. So just make sure when you have these conversations, kind of make it simple and kind of dumb it down a little bit. Because I know sometimes you new investors come in and they want to kind of come across like they're very knowledgeable, but don't go too far in it. Okay. So, all right. Next question.
Awesome. All right. And how do you find these creative deals? Just like we were mentioning with that deal with Deal Machine. That's one way to find them. What's another way to find them, Mark?
I built up over 600 bird dogs. So bird dogs is where I get a lot of my deals. For example, trashmen. They know the neighborhood. They know what homes are sitting empty. They have the Zillow app. They take a screenshot and they text it to a phone number. It comes to one of my VAs, and then they will run with it and skip trace it, put it in deal machine, skip trace it, and reach out to the seller. Landscapers, snowplow removals, Uber drivers. I used to do mailman. Mailman used to be great, but something happened where they don't refer so much anymore. Pest control, pool guys, handyman, anybody into the communities that are out there. Where I get my home run deals, my best deals are through hospice nurses. So the family calls me up. That's where I get my really good deals on those. So I have it set up where you should pay a referral fee. No, if you're a realtor, be careful because you can't pay referral fees. But I'm not a realtor. I'm an investor. I buy property. So usually I'll pay them anywhere between 500 to $700 per closed deal. Hospice nurses, because they're just lay downs. I don't have to sell it. I don't need to chase them. They're calling me. I'll pay them roughly between $2,000 to $3,000 or $2,000 to $2,500, usually something like that in that area. Then I also have it set up in my CRM where they can log in and see their referrals and see what's going on, the status and the notes and everything to make sure they can see that I'm actually not taking it and I'm screwing them over. So that builds a lot of credibility that they can do that. But once you start doing stuff and you start closing deals and they making money, they'll start referring to other buddies. I did 18 deals with one guy. I'm sorry, 14 deals with one guy. I did 18 deals with a realtor one year. Realtors are great too. I like working with realtors that are just starting out, and the rentals where people are trying to sell their home and they switch it to renting. Those are great ones. That's a good rent to own. I always ask if would you be willing to rent to own? We'll take care of the maintenance repairs. If they say yes, then I know they're open to some type of creative seller financing strategy. Um, and I did 14 deals with one year where I don't know if this guy worked for Medicaid or Medicare or the state, but he would drive seniors to the doctor's office and pharmacies. So that was another great source, another great referral. Another one I just started working on is that this gentleman drives a bus for an adult living facility, and some of these people still have homes, and so we're just starting that referral program out and see about referring deals to us. So, anyways, that's where I get a lot of my deals. So, I see some more questions here?
Awesome. All right, real quick before we hop into another question, I just want to throw this out there. Mark does have a mentorship program where you join group coaching calls exclusively with Mark and a couple other of his students that have graduated to the next level. We want to make sure that we can help you go out and learn, and also make sure that you are experienced, learning from an experienced investor instead of just learning from some rando off the internet. Mark is experienced, and I can't stress that enough. The experience saves you thousands of dollars. Mark has already made the thousands of dollars mistakes, so he learned off of them. So he has a book for you to grab as well. I am dropping in the chat a link. It's just a quick call to schedule with us to see if you're a good fit. It's a no sales call. There's no hassle to it. We're just calling, or we're just scheduling it to have a call. It's just a 10 to 15-minute call, and it's super simple. We just want to make sure that you are a good fit for the program before we even move forward with anything else.
Yeah, I've been at this 30 years, guys. Started back in 1995. And Matt, you're
All right,
not kidding
you
about
ready for more
learning from
questions?
mistakes. What's that? Somebody say something?
No, sorry. No, that was my fault. You were
That's okay.
lagging a
No
little
problem.
bit.
Oh, was I? I apologize. Yep. So yeah, I've been at this 30 years. I've done thousands and thousands of deals from residential, commercial, even businesses, and even helping some land stuff. So it's been fun. So let's get somebody asked about Canada.
Yeah.
Did you see that question?
Yeah. Now, iPhone question. Are you looking? I don't know your name. Sorry, iPhone. You can unmute yourself and talk. Anybody can unmute yourself. You don't have to put it in the chat, and you guys can talk. Now, this is a question. Are you living in Canada? Are you looking to invest in Canada? Where are you? Are you wanting to invest in the United States? Give us some details. Living in Canada, are you looking to do seller financing, creative financing in Canada? What? Give us some more detail there.
I think they probably want to live in Canada and they want to do business in the States.
Want
I
to
want
learn
to learn it
all.
all. Okay. Yeah. A lot of times what I work with several people that live in Canada. I got somebody in Israel. We got somebody from Berlin right now. Um, so what they tend to do is because everything nowadays is virtually. I go to Cape Town, South Africa, and I work remotely in the winter times. Time zone's a little different, which is okay. I have to start working at 4 o'clock in the afternoon down there. But now I'm actually getting ready to go to Lake Tahoe next this coming weekend coming up. But anyways, yes, you can set it all up. A lot of times they set up an LLC in Wyoming and they sit there and just find good boots in the ground, put systems in place. A lot of times they're doing a lot of business in Ohio, Michigan, um, Alabama. So it depends on where you're at, just trying to find it. But yes, you can do it anywhere. Um, like I said, I have several people that are in Canada all over, quite frankly. So it's not bad. You just got to set up the right systems, set up the LLC, set up an LLC here in the States, and then just run all your deals through the LLC, and then you can talk to somebody. I can refer you to somebody. I don't know exactly the ins and outs of setting the LLC up and how to get your capital back out, but a lot of times they keep the capital in the LLC here and they use the debit card. I don't know exactly all that, but yes, I have several people that do business this way and learning it, and they do a business remotely. Even one of the biggest note, because once you understand how to do the seller financing strategies, I talked about this a second ago, that you also can sell your notes. And one of the largest note buyers in the space is actually out of Canada, Toronto, Canada, and he actually runs a convention every year down in Nashville, and it's really good networking. So, what does note mean? Does it mean money? All right, a note means when you're uh like a mortgage. It's a mortgage note. So you probably, like, if you took a loan out on your house or your car, it's a instrument that tells you what the structure of the deal is, the terms, the amount financed, the interest rate, the payments, how long the term is. So that's a note. That's value. And what we do is you can create notes when you kind of find these properties. You're creating a note, and then you can sell that note off. For me, I want to hold my note. I want that passive income. I want that interest. So like if I'm selling it to an end buyer and his interest rate, I have one right now, his interest rate 7.75, I'm getting $2,100 a month. And if you're familiar with an amortization schedule, majority of that is going towards the interest in my pocket, and then the principal over time comes down. So if you're not familiar with the amortization schedule, and I'm sure you have it in your country, play around with the amortization schedule. Do like a $350,000 amount finance, like at a 6% interest rate, and do at a 30-year amortization, and then go to down to like line 120. You'll see how much money that you would make, or even the seller makes. And that's one of the ways I present deals to a seller that is on the fence of doing a seller financing. I'll provide an amortization schedule, since they're going to be carrying the mortgage note on that for me. They can see how much more money they're going to end up making on that deal. And I had one that was open to doing it for 3 years, but I didn't feel comfortable for doing it for 3 years. I wanted minimum was 5 years because I was paying top dollar. I went and provide the amortization schedule, and I pulled it up and said, "Hey, go down the line 120. That's over 10 years. That's 10 years. How much money would you collected?" They said like 89,000. Over to the right, what's that balance? Because you have a balloon, we got to pay it off, the remaining balance. They said, I don't remember exactly the amount of money. But then how much is in that interest over 10 years? They're making $149,000 becoming the bank over 10 years. Because of that, they decided they wanted to do a 10-year balloon on it instead of only three, even though we could technically pay it off early or refinance it. But that was a big selling strategy. And they said, hey, I don't want to just keep all my money in the stock market, and over here I want to put it over here against an asset, so if they stop paying, I can foreclose and take the property back. And I tell people, hey, quite frankly, after 5-7 years, you want me to default, you get that property back, because I've been paying a mortgage now, the property's gone up in value, but I would never ever allow that to happen. So hopefully that
Okay,
answered.
awesome. What interest rate are you do you usually aim for, and how rare is it to get a 0% interest, or interest is a main selling point?
So I usually don't do 0%, because one of my and I do have some interest. So it depends on the seller and the seller's needs. I'm always asking when I go into it, I'm like, all right, if we do seller financing, or how much money do you need a month? Okay. That how much money do you need? I bought a 13 unit, and I was ready to do $4,500 a month, $4,200 a month. And I go to the seller, how much money do you need a month to live off? She goes, 2,500. And I ended up negotiating. I got it at 2,200. And then what I did is I backed the numbers in, and my interest rate came out to be 4%. So I reversed the engineered it. So I plugged in what the payment needs to be, the amount financed, the term. Then I hit interest rate on the calculator, and then it told me what the interest rate is. Um, Yes, I have some right now. I have zero interest, but typically I want the seller to have benefit. So I'll show them an amortization schedule, what the interest rate is, maybe 4%. So that's kind of where I'm presenting to a seller. So I always ask the seller, how much capital do you need to live off of? And then I play with the numbers and make sure my numbers would work, and then start to negotiating from there. Now, keep in mind, when they do their taxes and they're holding a note, just tell them that I'm not a CPA, but tell them the CPA. The IRS is still going to have them do their returns when they file it at like whatever the going market rate is, the prime. So just keep that in mind. Just check with the CPA on it. I'm not giving advice, but that's something that I've seen people doing 0% interest rate, and then the seller's still got to end up paying taxes on that. So okay, but it's a great strategy. Um, but for me, I prefer to give them a little bit. I would rather pay a higher interest rate and a lower purchase price because I can always pay it off. For me, I'd always do that. I'll do a 9% if I need to, and then pay it off, go a lower down because you can, if you sell that, if you go ahead and pay that off, you're going to make that difference in spread. So you got to play with your numbers. One of the things I always look at cash flow in a minimum of $500 a month. So then I look at what the going market rent is out there. And then whatever the going market rent is, I usually go 150, $200 over that. And then I'll back my numbers in with the tax insurance of my end buyer or my tenant buyer. I'm looking for 500. And then from there, I'll back my numbers backwards and see what my payment needs to be with my seller. And then once I understand my payment, then I'll back in the interest rate. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. I have a deal analysis sheet that's so easy to use. So good question, though. I like these questions. Keep the questions coming. Hopefully, you guys are learning.
Yes, keep them going, keep them coming, keep them coming. So when it comes to the interest rates, are we seeing a dip in people paying the loans right now, or are we seeing a higher default rate right now? What are we seeing right now, Mark?
Yeah, we are seeing a higher default rate, especially in the subject twos. In general, across the board, we are starting to see the default rate creep up some. But the subject twos, that's keeping the existing mortgage. Subject twos are great if you're an investor staying in it. I don't recommend wholesaling it, but a subject two is keeping the mortgage in the seller's name and transferring the deed and the property over to you, where you get the property, you control it. Well, what's happening is where that, like that gentleman was saying, they're wholesaling. What they're doing is they're just looking for that large assignment fee, and they're not qualifying the buyer correctly, and the buyer is defaulting, and that's why you're seeing a higher default rate. But typically, if you do it the right way, the investor will underwrite that buyer, make sure they can afford it, and then you would end up making that cash flow. And then if they do default, you would end up making the payments. But you're a lot typically, if you're holding it, you're a lot more stringent in underwriting your buyer. You're not just looking for that large wholesale slash assignment fee. Because of that, that's what we're seeing happening. Okay.
Okay. What are some avoidable objections we can train for when talking to sellers? Or what are the main ones that
So
you run across?
the objectives that they need the money to move to another property. That's one of the biggest ones. Um, but again, seller financing, it's not, it's all about building a rapport and a relationship. Okay, that's really what it comes down to. So if you're getting to know each other and you're understanding what the seller's problem is and how to solve the seller's problems, that's how you can get those low discounted deals. I'm going to give you a quick, and I think Sarah got this last week. I mentioned this last week. So I had a gentleman in Georgia. He was open to seller financing, but he wanted $30,000 down, a $120,000 home. Did not make sense putting $30,000 down on that property. But I got on the phone with him for about 30 minutes, built a rapport with him. I found out, he's retired. He's got children. I found out his dog. He's got good credit. He banks with the credit union. He lost his wife. So I'm building that rapport, and he's getting to know me as well. So I go to him and I go, Robert, what do you plan on doing about $30,000? He goes, oh, I need $25,000 for a camper and I need some spending money. I go, where are you going camping? He goes, I'm going to West Virginia, New River, Sherry. So I started talking to him and taking him on a journey, him visualizing this camping. What are you going to do? Who's going to be there? When's a lot, like, think of yourself the last time you camping. So then he's visualizing what his life's going to be like. Then I brought him back. Oh, Robert, I go to notice you've been trying to sell this on seller financing for 2 months. I go, what seems to be the problem? He goes, everybody's beating me up in a down payment. I go, how many offers you had? I don't remember. It was like 12 or 15 offers. I go, Robert, I'm gonna be frank with you. Nobody's gonna put $30,000 down when they can go get an investor loan, put less capital down, interest rates be about the same. But this is what I'll do. You go ahead. I'll give you $3,500 down. You mentioned that you bank with a credit, you got good credit, they have great rates. Go ahead and take a loan out for the camper for the $25,000. And then what I'll do is on the 20th of every month, we'll automatically have the payments pulled directly out of our credit or out of our account and we'll send directly to the credit union to make the payments on your behalf. We got that deal for $3,500 down, and then we sold it to our tenant buyer on a rent to own for he put $18,000 down. So at 18,000, we gave the seller his 3,500, and we're cash flowing $475 a month on top of paying that camper. So that's what it really comes down to, is listening to the seller and how you can be creative enough to solve their problems. So hopefully that helps. That's how you get the art, where everybody else is just doing numbers and trying to sell it and shove it down their throat. And then the other thing, this is key too. The other thing, 70% of my deals come from follow up, where they originally try selling it the other way or whatever. Make an offer that's going to work for you to stay in the deal, and then just follow up. 70% of my deals come from my people I pitched 3, 6, 7 months ago. So make sure you keep enough deals, make offers, and make sure you follow up, because a lot of times the investors will never follow up. They're just going to go on to the next deal. So okay, all right, we got some
Okay.
more questions even on Facebook too. So
Yep. I don't see him over on Facebook, so that might have to be you
you
that
don't.
pull him. You
All
might have
right.
to read those.
All right. Somebody's saying, how do you refinance a subject to? It's simple. That you own the property, long as you can show the payments that you've been making on that property, any type of lender will go ahead and treat that as a refinance. They usually want to see at least 12 months payment history, sometimes 2 months, but just treat it like a regular refinance or a DSCR loan. You have the deed now. You just show the track history. And then one of the things also I like to use a loan servicing company, a third party. So a loan servicing company can provide the payment history showing that you did good payments on time. Plus you can provide them any type of like ACA, like a bank statement showing it coming directly out. But if you need any help with that, we have a couple people that can help with the refinancing that. Okay. All right. We do have another question in the Facebook group, but we'll come
Yep.
to you in a minute because Sarah had a question first. You want to read that question there, Matt?
Yep.
In
Do the usury laws apply to the interest rates for contract for deeds contracts by state?
Absolutely, 100%. You need to make sure with the usury laws in your state. But you can
Can you
also in
explain
the
what a
contract.
usury law is real quick?
Okay. Yep. A usury law is certain states have, you can't charge, it's like loan sharking, like stopping the loan shark. You can't go a certain percentage, even the federal government. So let's say a lot of times it's time tied to the prime, whatever the prime rate is, plus like 6% or 7% or 10% on top of it. So you'd just double check in your state with the usury laws on it. So another way you can structure that is you can, instead of tying an interest rate to a contract for deed, you can tie it to a payment, almost like a lease option. You can structure it that way as well. So that's why I like agreement for deed, contract for deed, because you can structure it in a couple of different ways. But check with your state, because states have their own type of regulations. But yes, you do have usury laws, and if you're getting into that type of an interest rate, you're most likely your buyer's not going to be able to afford it. You're going to be way over your market rent on that. Like again, I like to, whatever the market rent is, going a little bit above it, because that's where your buyer pool is going to be. So yes, there is usury laws on all type of seller financing that you're doing, even if you're doing a wrap, if you're doing selling it off, just find out what the usury laws is. You can just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, what is the usury law in Florida? Anything to that nature. Here, want me to do a quick example? We'll do one real quick here
Okay.
so you can kind of use ChatGPT. And then I see another one over there in a second here. Okay. In Florida, what is the usury law on selling a property through seller financing? Whoops. In Florida, What is the usury law on selling a property on seller financing?
In Florida, when you're dealing with seller financing, you generally have to be mindful of the state's usury laws, which set the maximum interest rate you can charge. In Florida, the civil usury limit is typically 18% per year on loans up to $500,000. For loans above that amount, the limit is generally 25% per year. Exceeding these rates can lead to legal consequences. So, in short, if you're structuring a seller finance deal, you just want to keep your interest rate within those thresholds to comply with Florida's usury laws.
Okay. Do that same thing in your state, wherever you're doing that. Okay. So it doesn't matter if it's contract for deed, whatever the usury law is when it comes to interest rates, that's how you want to handle that. Okay. All right. I'm going to jump over to Facebook. Okay. Hopefully that helps you. All right. Facebook. Do you use an attorney to close your creative financing deals? 100% or a title company? You want to make sure that they understand all those rules and regulations so you can make sure that all your documents are in compliance too, all your disclosures. So yes, you want to make sure that you have an attorney, have all that stuff, and that'll be part of the closing package. So yes, if you need help with that and you need an attorney in state, you can just plug it into the Facebook group. We know a lot of different attorneys that can handle this stuff. Okay. All right. Another question on Facebook group. Can you talk about what a due on sales clause is? Okay. A due on sales clause is, and this is why I like contract for deed, agreement for deed, because the deed technically is staying in the seller's name, but you're controlling it through contract. If we've gotten a lot of deals where people only know subject to and they're pitching subject to, and they're not financial distress. We're like, what are you crazy? Why would you transfer the deed? We say, why don't we do this strategy instead? So I like alternative strategies, like different type of seller financing strategies, and subject to is just one. I think of it as a tool belt. Depending on what the seller's needs are, that will determine what strategy you use. Now, if the seller is financial distress, yes, that's when I'll do a subject to. So due on sales clause back in the 80s, that the lenders, all mortgages nowadays, will have a due on sales clause. So when they um, underwrite the borrower that's buying that property and they become the homeowner, they're the ones that are doing the loan to that particular homeowner. When you transfer the property, so you're transfer that property out of the seller's name, the mortgage just stays in their name, but transferring out of their name into the new buyer, the lender, that's technically, it's not illegal, but it's a breach of contract, and the lender can call the loan due and have it paid off. Now, if you ever get a loan called due, it's pretty easy to fix that. There's several different ways of going about it. You can always transfer it back. If they've been making payments on it, you can go ahead and refinance it. There's a lot of different ways around that. So what I tend to do on mine is to kind of help camouflage it. I put mine into a trust, typically a land trust. So it makes it, a lot of times people put properties in trust for estate purposes. That's kind of what I do for my stuff. So usually the lender typically won't call it. Now, for years, subject to has been around 30, 40 years. The lenders always knew loans are being subject to, and they didn't care as long as the payments are being made. But what's been happening in the last 2 years, the subject twos have been, you know, is an advanced strategy, and people are just doing, like I talked about, are just doing assignments and wholesaling, just taking a fee, and they're not qualifying the end buyer. Now the default rate's jumping higher, so it's costing the lender a lot more money to foreclose on that property, because you got to go to the original borrower and then they got to foreclose on a new borrower, so it's costing more money and it takes a little bit longer. So that's why they're starting to call loans a little bit due, because of it's kind of getting screwed up. The people out there have messed it up. So but you still can do it, but you should have alternative strategies. But what I do is just put mine into a trust, and then just make sure that if it does get called due, make sure you have a backup plan to be able to get out of that. Typically, you go to the seller, hey, we got to put this back in your name, and let's just kind of maybe do a sandwich lease option or something on those lines. Okay, but that's what a due on sales clause is. All right. Now, people out there say, "Oh, I put it in a trust and it won't the loan won't get called due." It still can get called due in a trust if they find out who it is, the owner. Because in a trust, the beneficiary is the one that technically owns it, and the grantor on that. But the trustee is just the person that signs on behalf. But in some states like Arizona, that has to be disclosed who the beneficiary is, so it's a little tricky there. All right. There's another question in the Facebook group. I'm sorry, not the Facebook group, Zillow. A silly question. But if you were buying a seller financing for your personal residence, would you treat that any differently? My home here. I'm living in now. I bought this one on a creative seller financing. Actually, I bought it on a lease option. It was in 2010. I didn't know if I wanted to buy it, so it gave me the right. It gives you the option. That's the beauty why I like lease options, because if the values drop, it's an option. You just walk away. Whatever the option fee that you put down, like $100, $500, $1,000, whatever it is, that's the money you lose. You have an option. But if it goes up, like mine went up, I had $57,000 in equity when I finally closed on it. But no, I would just make sure that you can make sure you make the payments if you're going to buy a property for your own. Just treat it like normal. Build a relationship. Okay, it's a marriage with the seller and your buyer if you're selling it. It's a marriage. It's a long-term commitment. Just think of it. It's a contract, whatever term you're doing, 5, 7, 10, 30 years. So you want to have that good relationship. You want to have a good relationship with your buyer, your seller. So if something happens in financial, like all my buyers or tenant buyers, I have a good relationship with where they're reaching out to me if they're having an issue with the payment. I'm not chasing them because I have that type of a relationship. I send them a holiday card or chocolates and vice versa with the seller. If you have good relationships and treat it like a family member, that's how these deals get done. And if there's any problems that come up or any issues, and the reason why they're going to deal is because they like you. And be honest and be truthful and be yourself, just like how you would want to be treated. If you treat it that way, that's how you get these deals. And you may not get that deal because whatever may happen, but because of your credibility and the way you handled yourself, they'll refer deals to you. And I do get a lot of deals that way because I've helped people out where I could have said, no, you know, don't call the lender, don't do this. I want that property. I help them out. And because I help them out and they save their home, they end up referring deals to me. So that's how you want to treat it. Just treat it like a marriage. Just treat it like you're talking to your mother. And how would you treat your mother? And how would your mother want to be handled in that? That's the best way of going about it. If you do that, you'll get a lot of deals and they just keep coming to you. Okay. These are great questions. I don't see any more questions over there on Facebook, Matt. And has anybody got okay.
Not yet over here, but again, I just want to throw this out there. If you have learned something tonight, there is so much more inside of Mark's brain. It is just scratching the surface. We are very basic right now. This is very basic knowledge that we're dropping. Mark does have a mentorship program where he teaches in depth how to find deals, how to speak the how to speak to sellers, how to speak to realtors, all kinds of different negotiation tactics. He gives you all the contracts and everything inside his program. So again, if you guys want to learn more about Mark's program, I am dropping the link. It's just a quick call to see if it's a good fit for you. It's not a good fit for everybody, and we understand that. So I just dropped the link again. So feel free to schedule a call. It's a 10 to 15-minute call, no sales at all, just to see if it's a good fit for you. We want to see if we can help you out. So again, guys, this is a time for you to ask questions. We have about 15 minutes left, so feel free to drop your questions or unmute yourself and ask away. So
I see Dan in here. Dan, I've done a deal with Dan. We did a deal up in Jacksonville. So he's up there. He's quiet. The Michigan. He's a big Michigan college fan. So I like Dan's a good guy. He does a lot of note stuff in his world. So all right.
okay. What's the
What
YouTube
about
channel more about this? Mark Monroe, right?
seller financing strategies?
Seller financing strategies. See,
Yeah,
there you go.
seller financing. If you go to if you go to Mark Monroe, my website, Google Mark Monroe real estate or Mark Dash Monroe there, then you can find my the YouTube channel to watch a lot of this stuff. So yeah, you can
Also,
get
if you go to the featured tab inside of the Seller Financing Homes Facebook group, all the previous lives, we do this every Monday night. So all the previous lives are on there. So you can hop on there and watch all these lives. We've been doing them since the beginning of this year, haven't we?
yeah.
So
Yep.
so almost a year's worth of videos that we have done every week. So there's going to be like 40 some videos there for you to watch. So hop in there and go watch those. Those are going to provide you a lot of value.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then yes, the same videos are over on YouTube as well. But But then also what Matt's saying, like when the members in the program, we do 4 weekly Zoom calls separate from this that we go debt when they bring deals in. So what they do is they go out and find their deals, they bring them in. They don't have it under contract. They tell them not to bring the address, and then we analyze it, we underwrite it together, and then we talk about. There's a couple things we always want to know. Why is the seller selling? Then we look at what's our exit strategy. Are we going to wrap it, hold it, put a tenant in there, whatever it may be. And then we always look at the risk. I always look at 3 things when I'm looking at a deal. Immediately, who's my buyer? I'm sorry, why is the seller selling? How I can solve the seller's problems, and then who's my buyer? Let me give you another example. Let's say, for example, one of the things I look at is whatever the area is, the median price range for that area. I like to go 20% above and 20% below. The reason why is that's where your main buyer pool is going to be, or your tenant's going to be. So let's say, for example, the median price range for that area is 250,000. My max is going to be 300,000. My low is going to be 200,000. But I will look at properties below 200,000. But it could be a property that's in a nice area but needs fix up. But if it's in a war zone, I don't want to touch it, because I want that area where it's a single family home typically, and it's near a good school, and the family wants to, and I look for my tenant buyer, they're usually a family with children and they don't want to move. So what will happen is, and you'll, when you get into seller financing, you'll get like a deal like, oh yeah, the seller's open to seller financing, but they want $475,000 for that. The problem is that's great, you can get the deal, but then trying to find your tenant buyer for that area is going to be difficult, and then you may have to be responsible for make those payments before you get your buyer. So that's one of the reasons why whatever the median price range for your area that you're working, 20% above and 20% below, because that's mainly where you're going to be able to move that property quickly as possible. Okay, like I said, I like to buy through seller financing with a very low to zero down payment. I can't tell you how many properties I've done with zero down. I did 13 units. I get a lot from like the hospice nurses with zero down. I had one where it was zero down, 2 months with no payments. Okay, so I've done those type of things as well. So I totally lost my train of thought. All right, let's go on to another question there. So, any more questions?
I don't have one over here. Do you have one over there on Facebook?
We don't. Just the last one was doing sales. Come on, guys, throw me another good question. These are
I did.
fun.
I did put the link to YouTube over on the Zoom, so feel free to go over there and subscribe and watch away.
Okay, cool. I like it. I like it. So this iPhone, I think that's the one up in Canada, right? iPhone. How long does it take? Wait, what? How long does the process take to close? Yes, Canada. It depends. You can close quick as possible, or it depends on the title company. Typically, what I like to do is, because I'm trying to lock the property up and then try to find my exit buyer, tenant buyer. That's usually what I do. So I like to lock mine up for like a due diligence period or inspection period for 30 to 45 days and close after that. And I tell the seller, hey, you know what? At least you know I'm a buyer. We can go ahead. You don't have to rush out. Take your time. At least you know I'm committed. Here's the contract. Here's I'll put like a little down payment with the title company. And so they show there's a commitment, and then it allows me to go out and find my tenant buyer. That's typically how I like to do it. So it's easier, and then you can find it, and then you don't put pressure. But there's times where I had a seller that was a couple months behind on the mortgage, so I wanted to get that closed quick as possible, so the mortgage didn't go another 3 or 4 months. So it all depends. Usually depends up to your title company how fast you can move. But for me, I like to lock it up, and then that's the other thing, make sure you keep communicating with the seller, because I've seen people lock it up and they say we're going to close in like 2 months, and then you go dark, and then the seller is like, I didn't know what happened. So always communicate a couple of times a week with your seller if you're going to be doing that. Okay, that's really, really critical, because I've seen a lot of deals go awkward for that particular reason. All right, I see Jeff has a question there.
Yep. How much money should I have set aside to get started for closing costs, admin costs, team setup, etc.?
Yeah, the more the better, to be frank. um It really depends on, like, if you want to start out like a lease option, like, the lease option strategy. I mean, you could $10,000 is plenty, if not less than that. But you definitely want, usually you want to have 3 months reserves. And then what I like to do is, and I used a couple examples here where I like getting a low down payment. And then, like, if you have a lease option, like, I don't know how much capital do you have there, Jeff, but it really, do you have an idea like what type of capital you're looking at? Because that kind of tells me a little bit what strategy I would recommend. If you don't have a lot of capital, then I would recommend starting out with a lease option, because you can get in with a lease option and you technically don't need closing costs, a lot of those fees. But it sounds like you're looking to start up a team, and you look like you're starting to try to do a business here based off of your question, your admin costs, your team costs, etc. Um, if you're looking to do a business, see, first I'd recommend start out, do a couple deals, okay? And you might be, I don't know where you're at. It sounds like you might be already into business, but start out doing a couple deals on your own before you start taking a lot of expense and overhead on. Because I've seen people come in, no experience, they throw a lot of money at it, and they struggle because it could take a good 4 to 6 months to close your first deal. A lot of these gurus tell you, oh yeah, you'll do a deal in 30, 45 days. It can be done. I've had a couple people do it, very, very rare. But realistically, it takes about 4 to 6 months before you do your first deal, because it's a lot of your learning. It's one of the it's one of the easiest yet hard it's one of the most easiest yet difficult things to do, because once you understand it, it's easy. But to be able to understand it and understand the keys, and like listening to sellers and understanding the sellers motivation and how to pull it out, and the trigger words, once you understand those things, that's how you can get the lower and the better deals. I would recommend just do a couple deals first, start building up your reserves, and use that capital first to buy your couple deals, and then start building from there, and get a VA, get your systems, do a couple deals, set your own internal systems up first yourself. It could take you a month or two setting it all up, a good CRM, and then from there you'd want to get a good admin VA, to kind of really help you out and do a lot of those calls for you. And then from there you can kind of keep, and then just add a little by little. Just don't go crazy all at once. I see a lot of people get themselves in trouble. Now, if you're already out there doing like a wholesaling and you're transitioning over to doing seller financing because you want to start building up that passive income, then that might be a different story, because you already had that understanding and you had that knowledge and capability. So that's kind of where I'd recommend start out there. Start out simple. Like, I always tell people, do a 5 year goal. Start out with a 5 year goal. If you start out, do two deals your first year, then 4 deals, 6 deals, you can set it up where you're generating $15,000 a month in passive income. It's so simple. Just do it a little by little. But if you have the capital and you want to run and jump start, yes, you could do that. Then you probably want more of a one-on-one mentorship program, to really help you to put all those systems in place. Depends on where you're at in your capital. I've had some people that come in and they have like $150,000 and they want to go they just want to jump into it and start a whole entire business. That can happen. That was a big one. They, like I said, they had $150,000. They threw so much money at marketing. They've got all the CRMs. They built everything in place. They paid a lot of money for a one-on-one mentorship, to kind of make sure they had all that stuff. But again, if you're just starting out, I would start out, just do 2 deals your first 12 months, and then learn it and keep going and going, because it does get frustrating at times, because you're going to be calling people and they're going to say, oh no, I'm going to sell it traditionally, but 70% of my deals come from follow-up. But you can do it if you set up a good system, and in 5 years you're generating $15,000 a month in passive income, and that counting how much money you're controlling. You're controlling several $1 million of real estate, and you're going to have equity in those. So if you're owning it, or if you're creating the note, whatever it may be. So that's how you end up. Generation wealth comes from 90% of people become millionaires through real estate. So keep that in mind. If you just Google it and look at ChatGTP, that's where majority of the wealth comes from, people starting out in real estate. And even the billionaires and all those guys, they all own real estate assets. So this was a great session. Matt is going to close this out here. And thank you guys for all your questions tonight. And I'm going to need some water.
Yes, sir. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for everything. Again, Mark does have a mentorship program. He is here to help you go out and learn from his experiences. So He's done the $1,000 mistakes. He's thousands of dollars of mistakes probably. So
$47,000 mistake I did on a deal.
$47,000
So learn from
mistake.
that one. What's that?
Yeah. On one deal, you learned a $47,000 mistake.
And that is because I listened to an attorney. So be cautious of attorneys, by the way. Yes, attorneys, you need them to help you, but at the same time, just if you ever have a deal go sideways, work it out. Don't go through attorneys. Attorneys are just going to dry you.
Gotcha. All right. So again, he's learned his lessons and he's got the 30 years of experience. Last time I checked, you're going to want to learn from someone that has experience and that is actually keeping up on the updates and everything. So Mark is doing that. He has a team working on everything. He's doing everything tech wise. He's using AI. He's using everything. So Mark is the guy you want to learn from when it comes to this method. I'm telling you. So I'm posting the links. Schedule a call. There is no sales. There is no hassle on this call. It's just a thing to see if you're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for you. So schedule a call. It'll take 10 to 15 minutes and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one. I'll be in Lake Tahoe next week for the next call. Bye-bye.